And the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, his party is at the forefront of ensuring that the Electoral Commission reforms the voters' register. They earlier today held a press conference to reiterate why they think there is a need for us to reform our electoral books. Let's hear him specifically, then we'll come in studio for better or delve detail into this particular issue.
Earlier today, my running mate, Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia, and the General Secretary of our party, Kwabena Agyapong, delivered a special message from the New Patriotic Party to the office of the Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Mrs. Charlotte Osei. The message we took to her can be summed up in a few words. Ghana needs a new, credible voters register that must be compiled in time for the 2016 general election. Attached to our message to the EC this morning was the documented evidence supporting our case for a new register. We are now making this public statement because we believe we owe it as a duty to the Ghanaian people to let them know and understand why we are making this call to the EC. But let me please at the outset emphasize this. We have embarked upon this exercise not to point accusing fingers at any person or organization. We are here because we care deeply for our democracy and we see credible elections as an important step to securing the future well-being of our nation. It is also worth putting on record that the NPP is not the only body that has raised serious questions about the credibility of the register used for the 2012 general elections. Other political parties, in particular the CPP and PPP, as well as notable religious and civil society bodies, have all raised doubts over the credibility of our electoral roll. After the decision of the Supreme Court on the election petition, I and many others have said that the NPP will not be interested in taking another case of electoral malpractices to court. We say so not because we have lost confidence in the ability of the judicial system to deliver justice in a presidential election dispute. No. We're saying so because we would much rather spend our energy to ensure a fair electoral playing field by securing electoral reforms and a new and credible voters register from the Electoral Commission. We have so far gathered leaves us in no doubt that the biometric voters register compiled in 2012, which still forms the basis of the current electoral roll, is fundamentally flawed and unfit for purpose.
All right, so Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party. Let's come back in studio now. We're going to be speaking with Mr. Kwame Damoah Agyeman. He is the Executive Director for the Center for African Democratic Affairs and a former Chief Director of the Electoral Commission of Ghana, to find out really what he makes of the call of the New Patriotic Party and who can call for a new voters register, who can ask the EC to undertake that, or is it only the EC that is mandated to do so? Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
To begin with, what is the process like if one wants to undertake a voters register? I mean, a new voters register.
Well, so far, if we are to undertake a new, it depends on the type of equipment they have, the time on their hands, and then the financial situation. If they could get the funds to do the exercise.
How long do you think that exercise could take?
Well, so far the law provides that after registration within 6 months, provisional registers should be ready and copies given out. But from now till about next year, we have a lot of time. And you see, one thing in the election administration, immediately you finish an election, you have to review the processes that you went through to see which ones worked well and which ones didn't work well. They need to be done. That is, the commission should do a retrospective analysis of the processes they went through. Fortunately for them, when the last 2012-13 this court case came in, the court told them that they should do reforms in the system. So it's an indication, you see, do reforms. And in the electoral administration, there's something we call this electoral cycle. Ghana has 4-year electoral cycle. So that immediately you finish one and you do the review, you have to program to correct every mistake that came up so that you really maintain the integrity, you see. So since they have been prompted that these registers have some faults and that you need to do electoral reform, then as a good administrator, what you do is to prepare an election calendar year by year, so that by the 4th year, you will be in a position to be conducting your election. And the election calendar is not limited to yourself. When you finish, let the stakeholders know what it entails. I'm going to do this exercise within this period. And they will put in their inputs. And then that will fashion your program. They are not dictating to you, but you are sharing information. At the end of the day, they become your partners in executing that program. You see?
I see.
So with regard to registration, there is no law that says when you do a register today, review or replace it in 2 years or 3 years. It depends on whatever ingredients are in that particular register. For instance, there could be a software problem that made you have multiple names in it. You set out to rectify. Then this, they talk about maybe manners, and aside of that, apparently figures which are not statistically viable, if come to your notice, is an indication. People may talk about exhibit what you have. By taking the history of exhibition in Ghana, most people don't even show up. And by law, the commission has no authority to go and delete names unless people have come and somebody has objected and all those things. That's one. Those who have died, who registered and have died, their names are in the registers. We expect the exhibition to have come with this information for the commission to do it. Unfortunately, in Ghana, the births and deaths registry is not up to the standard. Aside of that, people, when their relations die, they have no feel at going to report that this person has died. Unfortunately, like places like, say, Singapore, the government has a program in place just because they want their statistics to be up to date. That if you lose a relative and you report the death, the government gives you some money towards the funeral. So that encourages people. But here we don't have it. We don't have it. So if you go and say, let's exhibit and get it out, and the people do not turn up, what do we have?
That's a problem. But there has also been the concern from many that what is the link between coming up with a new voters register and calling for electoral reforms and credible polls? What is there a link, or there are two separate things?
No, we say with credible registers, that is the key to the administration of elections. Because if you don't have credible elections, registers, then whatever you do will be fraud.
Okay.
In that, statistically, if everybody comes to vote, and there are these additional names, you cannot come in to say 100% turnout. That is one.
Mm-hmm.
Aside of that, the basis for the registration, that is the register figures and so on, would then help the commission to plan logistics and everything,
right,
and also advise the political parties who are the major stakeholders as to how they do their campaign. They will know how many voters are in this community, so maybe I should channel my resources to try to capture them and so on. And if those stakeholders have no confidence in the role, that is the voters' role, that they are going to use for the elections, at the end of the day, they will say, we don't accept the outcome. Because if you start with flawed statistics, you end up with flawed elections. We don't accept. And that's where it's going to throw the country into chaos. And if people bring the argument of finance, it doesn't hold. Because the cost of death of people cannot be quantified. Yes,
exactly. You raised the issue of an electoral calendar that should be in place. Do we have that?
Well, that much I'm out of the system, so I don't know whether they have it. And if they have, by now we should have made it, because it's a public document. It's not only to guide the commission. It has to let the entire population know, and especially the stakeholders and so on. They will know that from this period, these are the exercises we have.
Okay.
We are going to do this here, do that there, nomination, everything. You see, that's why I said we have a 4-year cycle. So at the end of 2012, when we finish the elections, they should have done the review. And then they could decide that the first year, we are going to do the second year, this. And within that particular year, the exercise they have targeted to do should be spelled out, time frame and everything. And then this will be publicized for people to participate.
After the 2012 court petition, which held the whole country at a halt, some recommendations were made. One of which is that we should come up with reforms.
Yeah.
And a committee was set up. They have put the report together. It has been presented. How soon do you think? Of course, we know you are out of the EC thing, but how soon do you think, looking at the time we have left, that these reforms can be implemented?
Well, it depends on the kind of reforms.
Okay.
If the major one is with respect to the register, then the commission, that's where I'm talking about calendar.
The calendar issue.
So from now till the D-Day, we should have a calendar specifying all the reforms that people proposed. It's a proposal. It's an advice to the commission. The final pronouncement should come from the commission. And if they accept to do these things, then they should find time frames within which they are going to do all those reforms that they have accepted to undertake. And it should be publicized so that every citizen should know that if we are going to have a new register, we will start the registration this period. Maybe before that one too, there should be other things. For instance, in international recognition, they talk about every vote having the same weight.
Okay.
And in our own constitution, Article 47, demarcation of constituencies and so on, it is stated that as much as possible, all constituencies should have equal number of inhabitants.
Okay.
But there could be variances in it, whereby population density, topography, communication, and so on has been stated in the constitution, which will guide the commission. So you cannot even have a constituency having just a small number of people without giving specific reasons why it should be so.
Okay.
But if you look at our system right now, there could be some constituencies having about 100 and something thousand people, whereas some have about 30, 20.
Okay.
You see. And yet when people win elections, they are all called honorable.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe the runner-up in one constituency got about 10 times the vote that the other one got.
Yes.
How should it be? So these are all reforms that we need to. We might have to review the constituencies, review whatever inherent problems like maybe program software made multiple registrations come up. Remember, during the last registration, the commission itself came out that they have identified several thousands of multiple registrations,
right,
and that they were going to prosecute. Unfortunately, did they prosecute anybody?
No.
And have they come out to tell the public where that multiple thing was kept, whether it was plunged back or thrown away? Nothing.
I think these are some of the questions that people or executives of the Electoral Commission can help us with answers to.
Yeah.
But would want to just let our viewers know that there's going to be extensive discussion on the electoral reforms and some of the suggestions that you've heard right now on agenda, which is on Thursday at 9 p.m. So join TV3 Matilda Santiago would be bringing you agenda on issues of the electoral reform. But in studio, we've been speaking with Mr. Kwame Damoah Agyeman. He is the Executive Director for the Center for African Democratic Affairs and the former Chief Director of the Electoral Commission of Ghana. Thank you very much for the education you've given us this afternoon.
Thank you.
All right.